I am Suzanne LaGrande, and on this episode of We Are All in This Together, I am speaking today with Cindy McGean, who is a writer, poet, and teacher.
So Cindy, could you tell us just a little bit about you and what your life was like before all of this pandemic began?
So I am a third grade teacher, and I'm married to an actor and voiceover talent. And so before all of this, my days were very busy, and I would usually get up around 5 o'clock in the morning, had to be at school by 7. The school day is very tightly scheduled, so, an elementary school teacher's day being 5 minutes late is like being an eternity late. We would have lunch around 11, and then when the students left at 2:15, I almost always had meetings, and then, of course, had to do planning and prep for the next day. So on a really good day, I could leave by 4:30, even though my contract ended at 3:15. Often that meant I didn't get home till closer to 5 or 5:30 by the time traffic and all of that went down.
And since then, I know that Portland Public Schools have closed. What is it like for you now?
So I am actually in the North Clackamas School District, and they are also closed because the governor's mandate covered all the schools in the state. So it was kind of a slow roll because before the governor closed schools, the districts were making their own decisions, and our district closed through the week before spring break. They made the decision to close that week and through March 30th. And we found out Friday morning and had to have whatever we thought we were going to need, we needed to have it out of the building by 3 that day because we were told we wouldn't be able to go back in the building. And as we now know, that's a longer standing order. So I didn't get to officially say goodbye to my students because the last time I saw them, I didn't know that I wasn't going to see them again until who knows when. I have 30 students, and many of them are impacted by trauma or have been impacted by trauma or are currently living in traumatic situations. At least half my class. So, yes, a lot of the conversation has been about, kids having enough food to eat and being able to make sure they're fed, which our district was right on top of. And I know all those schools in the country have really mobilized quickly to make sure that there's meals are available for those kids and their families. There are equity issues around providing online learning, starting with just basic access to digital technology and access to the internet. Some kids have it and some kids don't. Some families have it and some families don't. So it's a pretty significant equity issue to try to require them to continue learning. And because we're a public school, equity matters for us. So we are not allowed to require them to do any kind of assignments, but we can share resources with them.
So how have, can I just ask how have you been able to connect with your students online or by phone? Is it internet?
So, and then I'll talk a little more about equity because there's kind of another sort of unspoken equity issue at play. But so our district has a lot of learning platforms that have digital elements to them already. A lot of our curricula do. And I've been experimenting with how to use those tools to make some kind of online connection with my students. So I set up a Google Classroom that was just for this strange time we're living in. And I put little slideshows up every week or so. I've put now 4 of them up, so I guess 2 a week is what I've been doing. And they include videos of me, videos of the class guinea pigs, helpful learning links, things that might be fun. I have some links to like some calming strategies. Really, my goal is to try to give them and their families some sort of structure and guidance around stuff they could do. So I kind of built it like the shape of our school day, even though it's not required assignments. And they can comment and share comments to me and to the rest of the class in that platform. At this point, 13 of my 30 students have managed to get on there, but that was pretty tricky at first. There was a lot of confusion and a lot of me suddenly wearing a tech support hat that doesn't fit very well, trying to figure out why links weren't working, why they couldn't get on from their, grown-up's laptop or whatever. And then I've also put a bunch of stuff on my school website so that the kids that can't get onto Google Classroom still have that possibility. I sent emails out to the parents, and I've tracked which parents I heard back from. And then I have started making phone calls and writing letters. So my goal is to call or write to at least one student a day, just so that whether they have internet access or not, that they hear from me and know I'm thinking of them.
Mm. And you mentioned that there was another very significant equity issue that you wanted to talk about. What was that?
So a lot of kids live with families and grown-ups that are not able to give them any kind of daily support around this stuff for any number of reasons. Maybe they are still working 2 or 3 jobs in that category of essential worker that gets paid next to nothing. A lot of families fall into that. Maybe they are, their own academic background doesn't give them much to draw on. And also there are kids living with adults who are abusive or are neglectful or are dealing with drug and alcohol issues. And so on a good day, when the world is not insane, those kids are already at a deficit. They're the kids that don't get support to do their homework, that don't get any kind of basic support around any of this stuff at home. They're the kids that are the ones functioning like adults at home. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of those kids out there right now. They don't have an adult who's trying to figure out how to make homeschooling happen for them. They don't have an adult who understands that this is a situation that's going to be stressful for them as well and that they need to have normalcy. They don't have any of that emotional support. And those are the kids I'm the most worried about right now. Because we can set up, meal pickups, and those kids won't have an adult going to make that happen. Those adults may not even be responding or checking the school communication to find out that there's food to be had for their family. That kid may be the one who normally feeds their younger brothers or sisters, and they don't know that there's an option out there. There's a lot of kids in those situations.
Mm. So I know that we are in a time when there's so much that is uncertain and there's a lot to be afraid of. How is it that you are managing to cope with all this, and also, given what you've said about your students, also dealing with, that's pretty tough for everybody.
Well, I think I'm trying to take it one moment at a time, not even one day at a time, but one moment at a time. I'm drawing on things that have been sort of my regular tools on a normal day. So I try to start my day with some meditation and some poetry reading and some journaling. I've been doing at-home yoga. I try to get outside for a little bit each day, and try to minimize how much I'm taking in online about this stuff. But that's been incredibly hard because online is also how we're staying connected. So I think I'm just looking for all the little small things that remind me that the earth is still here, human beings are still here, we've survived hard things before. And honestly, a lot of the stuff I've done to try to reach out to my students has been as much for me as it has been for them. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a platform that one of my students suggested called Flipgrid, and only 2 of them have accessed it so far, but they can make videos and post of themselves, and just seeing their faces saying hello to me was such a blessing. And the couple of kids that I talked to on the phone, getting to hear their voices, you know, taking them each day to write a card to them, that gives me a sense of purpose. And I think that's a good way to keep going. I was thinking about yesterday and today, because we have a few friends who have had people die and they can't do the typical memorial service and stuff. And I've been thinking about the nature of grief in this situation. And at first I was thinking, like, God, how hard that would be to have the whole world fall apart when you're going through that, and you don't have people to hug you, and you can't do the usual rituals, and that I think is all true. But there's this other part of me that was thinking, when I've had people close to me die, there's that feeling of you're angry that the rest of the world is going along as if nothing happened. And what must it be like to lose somebody and feel like your whole world fell apart and have the world actually stop? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now we're all getting to stop and really start to think about that.
I mean, you kind of want the whole world to stop and recognize that your person died, and damn, if the whole world hasn't stopped, you know. Right. I don't know if that's comforting or if that's more terrifying for people, but
do you have any hope for something good that might come out of all of this difficult things that we are witnessing?
Yes, and I think just because, you know, you have to be able to find the good, you know, there's going to be an awful lot of hardship that comes out of this, and I feel like any conversation about finding the good has to acknowledge that. But I think that we are all being reminded of how important face-to-face contact is to us as human beings. We're being reminded of the value of being in the sunshine, the value of being outdoors, the value of slowing down and having time. You know, when I was listing off my schedule at the beginning of our conversation, you know, that's one thing that I am appreciating is my school day is typically ruled by what I refer to as the big bossy clock. And the big bossy clock is just, you know, out to lunch right now. It doesn't get to come back. There's no clock. And that's kind of a blessing, you know, reminding us that we don't really have to pack quite as much in as we thought we did. I think I'm more conscious of the notion that the human spirits and the connection of the spirit can transcend whatever physical barriers we have to face, and that's sort of a gift.
I am Suzanne LaGrande, and this is We Are All in This Together.